Oh boy. Well, this was a video that I never wanted to make. For those who know me well, those who've seen me around on Facebook or whatever, I am not just a gamergator, and I've said so in podcasts that I'm also a men's rights activist. As such, and given that I do consider myself anti-feminist and suddenly being in Gamergate, I'm suddenly surrounded by feminists who are of a good sort. I was going to make a video that was more or less along the lines of stop using No True Scotsmen fallacies because you only do yourself more harm than good. If you wanted to be a real force for change in the movement, do something against these radical feminists who are currently fucking up our state and our schools and so forth and so on. But then something happened that made me feel a bit of a fool for saying as such. For those who don't know, the current mega site of men's rights, that being A Voice for Men, and a community known as Men Going Their Own Way, which host a far more complicated philosophy and debate that I cannot cover in this video. These two groups have been in quarrel with each other, especially on the issue of traditionalism, that is, ways and forms of societies that enforce stricter gender roles to both male and female with sort of the argument that, well, that's the way it worked before, so why wouldn't it work again? And I, of course, am against traditionalism. I am for progressivism. I've said as such in podcasts that I do tend to go with liberals, except for on issues of feminism. I tend to be more of a Democrat, or at least voting more Democrat than Republican. Hell, I'm for the whole plethora of social reforms from LGBTQ to neoliberal-esque economic reform and all these sorts of things. But it's really come down to a fine line where it isn't even about that anymore. Recently, John the Other of MGTOW fame released a video concerning AVFM, writer, host, or I should say one of the co-hosts of the Honey Badger radio show, and just generally incredibly smart person. She used to do solo videos that were just fantastic, Karen Strawn, and what is turning out to be yet another in just a series of defamation against his character and against another MGTOW community member and YouTuber named Diana Davidson, otherwise known as Feminism 101 or LOL. I really can't be sure which one it is, but in any case, it's gotten to that point where it's mere theatrics at this point. No, I'm not MGTOW. I don't think the way that the many issues that men face will be through the individual. Yes, avoid marriage. Yes, don't fuck strangers because you're probably going to get slapped with, or I should say, there's a chance you might get slapped with a false rape accusation and the state would support it. Hell, in California right now, they're trying to promote yes means yes without even a way of legally proving consent. Vigilance is good, but philosophy alone, and certainly philosophical matters that argue over the simplest things like if married men or not can be part of a movement that is so vaguely named as men going their own way, I don't think that is very strong at all. And so when that group is being more ethical than AVFM, this mega super site, I really despair. When a feminist tells me not all feminists are like that, there's a fallacy being made. There's this idea, if you will, of a so-called pure form of feminism that distracts from the issue of what the so-called non-feminists are doing. And between that and the amount of perceived inaction on parts of more moderate feminists to cull in their more extreme counterparts, I used to hold that against them, but I can't now. In fact, I feel dead sorry for the rational feminists, the ones that I've met through Gamergate, the ones I've seen through Gamergate, Lena Kay, Christina Hoff Sommers, all of these individuals who are incredibly smart, and even if I don't disagree with them, do everything right, at least, in terms of citation, in terms of allowing the discussion to happen. I feel sorry for them because they're trying to fight something that is imperceivably just terrible to fight. How can you go against giant publications that get giant amounts of readership simply because they've been in the business for so long? How do you go against politicians who probably are making a quick buck? Hell, how do you go against Anita Sarkeesian, who at this point has a cult of personality around her bigger than Charles Manson had? These things can't be done by individuals. And as an MRA, I'm finally seeing that now. After all, what can I do to get rid of this idea that MRAs are sexist pigs? Well, I could try and create my own super site, but lightning never strikes twice, and AVFM was a freak incident, and frankly, I didn't have enough foresight to see when it would go bad. And between just the cost of starting a website to getting that heap big of viewership, to even contending with AVFM, who would no doubt go against that site, as well as those, radical feminists, that's just way too big to do. That's a full-time job that I can't do. So, what else can I do? Can I go on Twitter? Can I go on Facebook? Can I, go try saving face with people who obviously disagree with us and probably for legitimate reasons? Well, I could do that, but you still have giant publications slandering the good name of men's rights, which has some righteous causes in it. So that suggestion is merely just suicidally inefficient. Well, the third option is naturally to try and promote a purer form of men's rights. And at that point, what are you going to say? Are you going to say that that other group is also men's rights? Because they're sure as hell not advocating the same principles as I am. They may be talking about the same situations, but just like MGTOWs and AVFM talk about the same issues in different ways, I and many other men's rights activists have a completely different method. So what am I naturally going to say in a course of conversation where people can make sense of it? I'm going to say those people are not actually men's rights activists, or that they're the wrong kind of men's rights activist, which is also a statement that doesn't negate the damage that they do. And I've done that with online atheists. I've done that with men's rights activists, and I keep having to relearn the same lessons. And specifically, the lesson that those who defend ideologies, those who defend movements that do not have active mechanisms to cull the bullshit, are merely defending idiots. Does this mean I no longer am interested in men's rights? No. It means that I'm sick of the current debate. And honestly, maybe that's the best way to end this rather somber video on the subject. Mere thanks to anyone and everyone who can approach the debate of gender and political rights in a way that cites sources that allows conversation to happen and allows mechanisms of control that allow certain mechanisms to keep things on the straight and narrow ethically and intellectually. Thank you for the work you do. You are the only people left on this earth who can probably speak rationally about it. Certainly not I, a random YouTuber and podcaster. Certainly not the mass of just internet idiots out there. Just remember, folks, think with your head. If you think there are major issues of motivations or suddenly dominating viewpoints that threaten to cull the rest of a conversation, get out as quickly as possible and find new avenues. You aren't going to be able to save the reputation of any movement that isn't smart enough to have mechanisms to save itself. It's a futile act. So the best you can do is continue your fight elsewhere and join the ranks of people like me who have officially not only been let down by the current political system in the US, both left and right, but now major hubs of activism that lost their focus. My name, as always, is Robert Stoll of the Stoll Review. Please like, share, and comment respectfully. I don't expect everyone to disagree or agree with what I have to say, but if we can help it, let's not be idiots. Long live men's rights, women's rights, children's rights, everyone's rights. Hell, long live human rights. And may someone come along and do a better job than AVFM, including men's interests in that conversation.